Without further ado, Unscripted with the crack man, Bill Krackomberger. What up, Billy?
Oh, good. Thank you for those nice tweets. And that one about Freehold, too.
Yeah. How about that?
So now, the racetrack's closing, but there's sports betting in there. I wonder if that's closing.
I think that's just the racetrack, I believe, is what he's talking about. It could be wrong.
What a bucket of blood that place was. I mean, really.
Bucket of blood for a knock-around guy.
Oh, God. That place was the sewer for years. No, I mean, and by the way, Freehold's beautiful.
A sewer.
Oh, Freehold. But, I mean, some of those, they're cartoon characters walking around betting there. I mean, literally, mustard on their shirt, those kind of guys.
Oh, the mustard on the shirt crowd.
But, no, I was a DJ. You don't know this. Part of my repertoire was Freehold.
Oh, I remember that you were a DJ.
I was, Monmouth Park, Freehold, Meadowlands, running around from track to track, casinos, 16, 17. I talked about this before, no money. On the way home, on the way there, listening to Sinatra, all happy, proud, going to Atlantic with your buddies on the way home, no money for the tolls. I mean, it's a sickness, running out of gas.
No money for the tolls.
Yeah.
We've talked about the tolls before.
It's a sickness, but Freehold was part of it, and that track was, and then they fixed it up. It was okay, but cartoon characters, like I said, and Freehold's really nice. Freehold's a really nice area. It's a beautiful. Monmouth County's beautiful. Last time matter of fact, the last time I was at Freehold. Do I say this on air? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure.
I stopped at Spanky's office.
Yes.
It was right there.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to see what was going on in the operation. He put a picture of the spaceship-like office.
Don't give the address
I
out.
won't.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm stopping over. I'm 10 minutes away. They said, come on over. So, and it was, I tell you, he has a staff.
He's shown pictures of it before.
Yeah, no, he has. That's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's a step, that like Spank Odds, there's a full staff.
Oh, yeah. He's not playing around.
No. He's losing money on that right now. Even though there is a charge for it, but I mean, the live odds at Pinnacle. There's a lot of things they have that Don Best doesn't have. So there's a free plug there for Spanky's Spank Odds, and the kid Scott here in town, real nice kid, handles a lot of that. I've actually met him at Bet Bash when I came in, and I met him, and we went to dinner a couple weeks ago. Good guy. But
what were you saying off air? You were like, you had to have talked about this. You said, and I said, no, I haven't talked about this before. Because I was away last week.
It's just terrible having ADD. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you being away, we draw parallels on this subject. But I should have asked you if I could talk about it. But I'm sure I could.
Sure.
When my dad passed,
then
my mom had a lot of, my dad was a pack rat. Saved everything.
My mom was a hoarder.
Oh, real a hoarder.
Not in the way that you see on those TV shows with there's a dead rigor mortis cat under a pile of trash. But in the sense that she kept everything from her kids' lives and her life.
Wow.
She didn't throw away anything.
I think it was that generation.
And we didn't know that.
Because my dad, when my mother passed, I went down into the basement where they stored everything. And I was alone because my brother, he works, my brother's a civilian, a regular person that, he's down in Florida and he, works a 9 to 5 and he couldn't come there for a week. So it was up to me. And, sadly, I just threw away a lot of stuff, put a lot of stuff in storage, and I was worried about throwing the stuff away, what my dad would think. And I haven't asked you about if you went through this.
This is you're hitting home right now.
I felt so bad about throwing some stuff away. My dad saved all the Time Life magazines. I don't know why.
Oh, Bill,
I don't know why. I was like,
you're
Dad,
living.
Why would you? And then my dad was a weightlifter. So
was he really?
Yeah. It's passed down. It's passed down.
Alternating generations, Bill.
So so he was a weightlifter, and my dad also used to ride motorcycles. Believe it or not. Back in his young generation, he was
also alternating.
Yeah. But my dad had all these weightlifting magazines, and there was like a guy named Atlas, not Teddy Atlas, by the way. There was another Atlas guy. Yeah. He had like autographed pictures.
Oh,
and
man.
I was like, wow, I never knew he had this stuff.
You keep them or you?
I kept them, and I kept the moon 69, the moon going to the. My dad was
moon landing.
My dad was an American history major too.
Yeah.
Very, very intelligent. He always told me, he's like, You kids, you just know nothing. But he had everything on the moon landing at the front of every newspaper. When Elvis died, he had everything on Elvis. I never knew he had these things. Perfectly saved, though. Pretty good.
You're hitting home because I was away last week. I never really talked about this on air. I was away because it's interesting. When my dad died 3 years ago, I was inconsolable. 3 years later, my mom passes away about a month ago now, not quite a month ago. And you don't know how you're going to react in any of these situations. But for me and my brother, this became like, oh, we got, there's a house in DC. We got to sell the house. Like we got to get everything out of the house, right? So like your baseball cards, your Sports Illustrateds, like that kind of sports memorabilia. Of course, I keep it. I'll never get rid of that because that's just my life. But we didn't realize that she was such a hoarder of stuff, and that she kept everything. And he kept, by the way, exactly what you're saying. You run into, first of all, it was emotionally and physically exhausting because physically you're deciding, okay, what is worth putting in storage? Why are we even putting it in storage? Are we ever going to look at this again? But it's like, here's my dad's, diploma that he kept and cherished. We can't throw this out. We'd be awful human beings to throw this out. The next thought is, but what are we going to do with it?
What do you do with it?
What are we going to do with it? Are we going to just, no, neither of us do. So here's the thing. So every one of these decisions was like this heart-wrenching, oh, now we have to look at these pictures and by the way, we say this gratefully that they have these pictures,
yes. But
we have to look at them together. Like, do you keep this one? Do I keep this one? So it's like this, and it was nonstop, like the world stopped. But what I found is that she kept all of my stuff from school, and I mean way back, right? And so whenever I tell stories about, this was the interesting gambling tie-in, whenever I tell stories about, okay, I always say I was the kid in grade school who was the one, my parents are not from this country, I don't know how I decided to do this, I started the football pool at school, right? Where it was just wins and losses, and and I feared that the teachers would catch me all the years. And finally, I tell the story, 3 years into it, somebody did. One of the teachers put their hand on my shoulder, and I was like, oh, the jig is up. And then he goes, how do I get in on this, right? And I realized, oh, this gambling thing is something. And I always tell the story that the only the first sort of odds thing that I added to it was when Georgetown was dominant in college basketball. And this was already high school where I was like, I'll give all y'all 5-1. No, I get 5-1 if Georgetown wins it all. You get every other team in the tournament, right? That was the first odds thing that I recollect. But this was not the case because when I was home, she kept my football pools that I gave out to people when I was in third grade when I was 8 years old. And you know what my tiebreaker was at 8 years old?
What was it?
The spread on Monday night.
Of course it was.
I did not remember that.
Wow.
So there was all these little moments where I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And she kept it.
Kept it all. And but what do you do? Thank God I have a friend there, my friend Al. And Al has many businesses, and he's like, I'll send my guys over to help you. So he sent 3 guys over, and I thought it would take 2 hours, 3 hours. It took 2 days. Al's guys took every box out. And not only that, they went through the boxes with me, and now Al has lots of property, and he let me. They're stored in one of his garages. He has multiple garages. Do you know I paid like $250 or I think.
And you pay it to this day, and you don't know why.
Yeah, no, I wasted $18,000. I figured it out, like $19,000 one time on storage, and I threw everything away in the storage.
Oh man!
And I was like, what's wrong with me? I take after my father's tendencies. So thank you to Al.
But it is brutal, right? It's brutal because you have guilt, you have practical, thoughts like, okay, I have the guilt of this, but at the same time, what am I going to do with this? And what am I going to
do with this? That's why I asked you, do you have kids, anyone? Because we have stuff where we have and there's no children here. So what do we do with all this stuff? And, one thing I loved, there's a big cedar chest downstairs.
Yeah.
And I never knew it was there. Opened it up, it still smelled the cedar. And I found my grandparents' birth certificates and school records and the proper spelling of my name. They didn't speak English, so they came through Ellis Island. And it was with a P and an L. I was like, Krackomberger. Wow.
Krackomberger.
K, no C.
Right.
Pergel.
Krackomberger.
Like it was almost like The Godfather. They came in and Andolini. You're from Corleone. You're Vito Corleone.
Yeah,
Same thing happened.
Ellis Island.
Island. My name was changed. Yeah.
More Unscripted with Bill Krackomberger. Krackomberger. I'm sorry. Krackomberger. On the other side, numbers game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Don't just watch the college football playoffs this year. Get in on all the action with the VSiN Road to Jansanity contest. Your football handicapping skills could win you $5,000. And the best part, it's absolutely free to enter. Your challenge, pick the games against the spread for every round. The contestant with the most points after the title game wins $5,000. Head over to VSiN.com/Jansanity for the contest rules and to register. Don't wait. Today's the last day to enter, though. Visit VSiN.com/Jansanity and let the Jansanity begin. And by the way, all the help that you need in picking these games, I failed to mention when Tim was on. Bad host. He is the host of the VSiN College Football Tailgate Show. And, of course, he's got the college football betting podcast as well that you should check out. The College Football Tailgate Show, 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. Saturday morning. So yeah, I guess you can't listen to that, but listen to the before you have to submit those. But listen to the podcast anyway. That's available now. We get tweets at Beatty the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. This is from... let's see here. Ryan Hyatt, if you're not listening to Crack on VSiN right now with Gill and Kelley, you're going to be knowledge poor today. Don't let that happen. This is from Judd O'Connor, last one about the NBA. He said, NBA, make the court bigger, spread them out more, and make the three another 6 to 12 inches farther. Have to make twos analytically better. I like that last thought. You really do. Michael Burns, my mother says I'm going to have problems when she passes away. Constantly says.
Wow.
In capital letters. Get the money racing at Front Wraps. This segment is incredible with Gill and Bill. Could listen to these stories all day. I did the same. Ran an operation in middle school and high school like you, Gill. Didn't have the same ending, though, as I got caught and they called my dad. Luckily, he was a degen.
Oh, my God.
I lived in fear of that phone call for years. And I got the one teacher here from North Carolina, Steve Sorkin. He goes, how do I get on this, Gill?
But, you know, the difference between Front Wraps and you, your dad, like I got it from my father, too, because of my mother's family corrupted him. Your dad didn't. Did your dad ever gamble?
Ever. I was born this way. There's no explanation. There's no explanation to it. Just that, you know.
How at 8 years old? Your brother?
No. You have to understand. The first time I saw the Redskins play,
right.
So I was 6 years old.
Sure.
Literally, this is Thanksgiving.
They don't talk about the spread on the game?
No, not the spread. But I got to the spread apparently by 2 years later.
Newspaper.
Because of the newspaper. They had them in the newspaper.
Right.
And I read the Washington Post. The Washington Post would arrive at our front door every morning. Before anybody would get up, I would open the door. I would grab the Washington Post. I'm a kid in pajamas.
Right.
I would lay down the sports section. I would read it from front to back.
Unbelievable. How old were you?
This was like 6 or 7.
Unbelievable. Did they have? Did they have like we had the New York Post and the Daily News, the latest line? Did you have the line on all the games?
Yes.
Like that?
Well, to the extent that they were able to put them in.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So
and there was the Scandicappers all in there on the bottom. Mike Warren, Duffy, all those guys.
No, we didn't have that.
Those newspapers really could have been charged with promoting gambling. No, they really could have because of the line and the Scandicappers. I mean, I just didn't know if you had that.
C. Spackler says, Gill, the elementary school bookie. Yeah, it wasn't really with the spread, except apparently the tiebreaker was on Monday night, which I had forgotten all about. But you have to understand, like, that's when people say, oh, well, they were born that way. That's why I believe in all that stuff. Because the first time I watched a Skins game was Thanksgiving. I was 6 years old, right? And they lost a heartbreaking game. And I remember my parents were over at some people's house Thanksgiving, and they dragged me along. And the TV was on. To say that I was obsessed from that moment for the rest of my life is not an understatement.
And your dad, you got the game on in the background. Your dad's like, well, what are you doing, Gilly?
Well, you come have dinner. What are you doing? But and this is why I was saying when I was eulogizing my dad on the show 3 years ago, this is what he became a Redskins fan because I was such a rabid Skins fan. And so to the point where he used to live and die with it. By the time I got to like junior high school, he'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't believe we did this again.
Wow.
He'd be like, he had his famous things. Will Hill always reminds me of this, and I love him for it, which is whenever a team had 2 straight negative plays, my dad would always have the same line, Jesus Christ, I can't believe they're going the wrong way. That kind of thing. But it was always, that was the great thing about having immigrant parents and how he would connect with me on that. But that, I can't explain it. There's no explanation for it other than that's how I came out of the womb.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But
Well,
but
good.
to
Thanks.
get back to the point, that week of going through all that stuff, that's like a fun moment where you smile. But most of it is this emotionally exhausting thing where you're like, we can't get rid of this, man.
Was there stuff down there like me when I was down when I don't know if it was down, but we had a basement. I told you, and I was like, how? Why did my mom and dad not tell me this was here?
Why did they not?
That cedar chest full of things. Like, why didn't I know about that stuff?
Well,
they didn't even warn me. Hey, there's these things and these. My father was a pitcher rat. My father had. Remember the pitcher things in the Walgreens and stuff, and you used to buy. You get in the pharmacy. They used to give you a sleeve of pictures with the negative in it.
Yes,
we had 150 of them.
All those negatives, you bring that up too. Yeah. So there's the pictures and there's the negatives.
Yeah.
What are we going to look through these negatives?
What do you throw them out?
Yeah, you have to. What are you going to
We're
going to put it
even
up in
the
light?
photos themselves. Like, who's to give it to? My dad was one that just took photos of everything and everyone.
Yes.
So and then a lot of the old black and white photos that were in the actual. What are those photo things?
We had those slide reels.
Yeah, but they're actually great grandparents, and my grandfather was a boxer, and like the clips from the early 1900s of him being a boxer. Who do you give it to? Now listen, I want it. I love it.
Of course you should.
When something happens to me, where does it go?
Yeah, well, that's the end of that.
There's no one unless I can give it to cousins that have kids. I like to keep those kind of.
Maybe it's time for what was your name at the what was it?
Krackomberger.
Maybe it's time for Bill Krackomberger to have a kid.
Yeah, no,
it does make you think about that, though,
kids.
doesn't it? Just on that alone, like it's like, geez, you should have a kid just to keep this stuff.
Yeah, well, that's not happening. Yeah,
because my parents had this thing again. I will say this: my dad came to the country with he always said $700 and 1.5 suitcases. He put a pillow to fill the other suitcase.
Yeah.
But there's like documents of like they had to vouch for him and stuff. And it's like, you can't throw this away.
Sure.
This is like the Magna Carta of our family here. It's incredible, man.
Let's get into some gambling things that I wanted to talk about. One,
you said you couldn't believe I talked about something.
Oh, I couldn't believe you didn't talk about this.
Didn't talk about it.
No, I just figured you did already. I said he probably covered this. Hopefully, I can throw some the Safe Bet Act.
I did not.
ACT. Safe. You didn't. No one talked about this.
I didn't.
These two senators proposed. I actually don't know a lot about it. I just know what I read on Twitter. These two senators that proposed this and to have these different rules for the sports books and the gambling in general. No advertising during live events. Mm-hmm. No more of the commercials, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM during live events.
I'm for it.
That's one of the things on there. No bonus sweat bets, bonus bets, odds boost. I don't really understand why that's good for the players, but maybe it's just because it's promoting gambling, I guess, or how sportsbooks use celebrities, social media influencers to promote parlays, bets with high juice. It's the downfall. By the way, that is the downfall for most sports bettors. That was another thing I was going to talk about later. Let's hit it now. I actually put a note on my thing to remind me. Even my friends, I went to breakfast, and I'm going to embarrass them. Excuse me. Even my friends, yesterday, I went to breakfast with someone, and again, a sharp, astute guy. By the way, he can buy and sell me, so he's wealthy, very wealthy, stock market. Yeah, everyone's wealthy in the stock market. You know that, 40-some thousand. Yeah. Everyone has bitcoins. Everyone's really wealthy.
A genius.
Everyone's a genius. Wait till all these kids see that a bear market. They'll be doing headers off buildings. I mean, they won't know how to react.
Some people they don't. That's right. They haven't seen it before.
They've never seen it.
What do you mean this can go down?
Wait, there could be a correction.
Yeah.
But anyway, he turns to me and goes, "One more crack." I was like, dude, you forgot who you were talking to. You have 7 out of 8. You're looking for one more game. He's like, yeah, I always have them. I said, I can't believe that you would do that in parlays.
Oh,
you have friends that bet these?
Oh, are you kidding me? Of course. Did you know? I don't know if you noticed this. So getting back to your whole thing about like the regulation is what you're talking about here. I'm all for there being some regulation with stuff because the same game parlays,
one of the words
right?
is same game parlays. That's actually one of the words. Same game parlays, bonus bets.
Because same game parlays, you're not getting true odds on anything, right? So it's all predatory in the end.
A parlay, you're not getting true odds anyway.
Yeah, and
so now you want to throw this same game parlay in.
Did you notice who added a same game parlay?
No.
Bookmaker. Did you see that this week?
No.
They just added same game parlays. I'm like, I start shaking my head like, here we go.
It's everyone, and it's a tight walk that we.
It is a tight walk.
We walk because
right.
Now even myself, I find someone sponsoring a show, and I actually I'm a little crazy. I actually listen, guys. It's real tough for me to promote a same game parlay unless you're going to give me some correlation where I can be involved in the pricing. And they were like, oh, maybe we'll have you talk to the risk guy.
But I do think you bring up a good point that we should clarify, which is it is a tight walk we walk here, because obviously we love what we do. It's in our DNA. But I always say, like, if I had a son who showed an interest in gambling, it would take me like years before I was like, okay, you're ready now, right?
Right.
And to the extent that books can just full court press, a new generation of gamblers who is not steeped in this, right? Who are just starting out and think they're like, they're sports fans who are like, oh, I can beat all this stuff. I know sports.
Of course.
They have no idea the math behind stuff.
No.
Yes, I am in favor of anything that can stem the tide of the predatory nature of sports books. Despite the fact that we sit there and we talk about gambling all the time. If you can hold those two thoughts in your head at the same time.
We'll talk about it more on the break. I have some more stuff when we get back.
Bill Krackomberger, everybody, Unscripted, exclusively right here on A Numbers Game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. College football playoffs kick off tomorrow, and there's no better way to get game ready than with VSiN's College Football Playoff Betting Guide. You got to get this. The must-have guide, packed with everything you need to make smarter bets, including in-depth previews of every first-round matchup, a full college football playoff overview with exclusive insights from top bookmakers, team breakdowns for the squads with first-round buys, custom playoff brackets and best bets from VSiN's expert hosts, power ratings and analysis, plus bowl picks for every game from Steve Makinen. And you ready for this? The Godfather himself, Brent Musburger. Sign up now with our holiday special to get the guide plus full VSiN Pro access to everything we do through May 1st, 2025, all for just $79. Visit VSiN.com/subscribe to lock this deal today. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Gill Alexander, we get tweets at Beating the Book. Best listeners in the game. Y'all really are. Chance Copperpot. I feel you, Gill. I shared when both parents passed 2 years ago. They were divorced. So it was two separate instances with no siblings. Talk about a lot of stuff. Unsecured firearms, keepsakes, random junk, so much stuff. Condolences. Thank you. And Chance, condolences to you for having to do that by yourself without a sibling. Lionel G. Williams has a conspiracy theory. He doesn't consider it a conspiracy, though. He says Jonathan Taylor had a contentious, nasty contract dispute with the Colts. I think Jonathan Taylor dropped that ball on his way into the end zone on purpose. And that is why people can't understand how this could happen. Wrong question. The question is why? Revenge, says Lionel G. Williams. Hoops by Hoots. One of my favorite and first memories of my gambling life is my dad ran the March Madness pool at work, and he would let me hand grade all the brackets. Yellow highlighter and red pen. It was the best. I love that. Ryan Thompson. I ran multiple pools in middle and high school, gave many teachers aliases so they could play. I also wrote a weekly sports betting review that I handed out in the hallways to students and teachers, focusing on bad beats and featuring power rankings. Man, I love that.
That guy's up my alley.
This guy used to
love that guy.
Ryan, you're a reporter as well. Ice Cold Gambler. Great segment today. Really hits home. I used to run NCAA brackets and took 10% juice at school from all athletes and teachers. Thank you, LA Unified, for teaching me how to make a living. I learned from my dad's office pools. That's awesome. Specifically for the teachers and the athletes. David J. at Let's Go David J. When discussing basketball ratings, the wisdom of George Carlin comes to mind. Here's how he'd improve basketball. 2-second shot clock, gas fire 10 feet on either side of half court, 25 points awarded for buckets off another player's head. LFG, he says. Thank you for all the tweets. We'll get to more coming up. Unscripted with the Crackman, though. Bill Krackomberger, by the way, at Bill Crackman with a K on Twitter. And the name of the podcast is Wise Cracks with John Orlando and Bill Krackomberger, still going strong.
And Randy McKay.
This year.
Randy McKay's on all throughout football season. And maybe even beyond. People like Randy, so he answers a lot of casino questions and stuff. So we're talking about the Safe Bet Act. So, and by the way, even though I'm a sports bettor, I've always been a player's advocate to the point where I've cost myself money. I lost a gig. I lost a nice little paying job at PointsBet because I couldn't help myself. Just talking about things I probably
their model.
Yeah, just everything. You can't throw people out. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it for betting $10 grocery dollars. It was just, but anyway, I've always wanted to promote safe gambling for people, and I've always talked about it. And I have to go off my experiences, not off something that I heard from someone else. And I told you just at the beginning of the show, talking about running around at the racetracks and craziness. And if it wasn't for my cousin changing me and the guy I met in Atlantic City changing my life, actually changed my life. Like I said to you guys before, I've worked so many blue collar jobs, and I just know a lot more about these particular things from a personal standpoint. Matter of fact, these people who are tweeting to us, thank God for them. You had some really great teachers, guys. We used to get in trouble when we flipped quarters in wood shop, pitch against the wall. We were getting a lot of trouble gambling in the school I went to, a little blue-collar Kingsburg, New Jersey town.
Knock-around guy. That's you are.
No, I like saying it.
I just like to say
it's a great word.
Yeah, knock-around guy.
But going back to the Safe Gambling Act, or Safe Bet Act. Yesterday I tweeted something out, and I just wanted to look at his. This I'm going to give him credit in a second. I don't know who he is, but nice name, the DGen. Of course, why wouldn't it be? This will forever change sports betting as you know it. It's proposed anyway. So the sportsbook ads banned from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on any kind of broadcasting. That's also during any live events, as we know, even late night West Coast. Wow, this is an interesting act here. The bill requires affordability checks. Customers who wager certain amounts in 24 hours, no 5 deposit max. Now, 5 deposits sounds like a lot to me in a day, but these online casinos, it's really easy to deposit $20, then 50, then 100, then 200, then 1,000. So it's really easy to do it from your bank. Now,
you said there's also a credit card ban in there?
The next one was yes. No credit cards, bans.
I completely
ban credit cards deposits.
In support of that.
Some of them don't do it now, but there's ways to get around it, and people know how to get around it. So deposits would have to be made through a debit card or ACH.
Because that's the thing. The easier, like we know this from a local bookie, right? Local bookies, because everything is on credit, right? So it's like that's where you run into the issues, right?
They're going to push people back there, by the way.
So, of course, remember when this got legalized, Bill? That was the first thing I said.
Yes.
When they started doing their little stuff, I'm like, you are going to accomplish the very thing that you set out to, eradicate, which is, remember they were like, the local bookies, they're just it's just so bad for people, but regulate this stuff and it's going to be okay. But not if you do this. You can push everybody back to those folks. You're going to accomplish the very thing that you acted like you were trying to get rid of.
No more AI. This prohibits the sportsbooks from using AI to track individual playing gambling habits or to offer promotions to customers based on their gambling habits. That's a little bit loose the way they're using that, but based on any algorithm that tracks the behavior would be outlawed. Bets on amateur sports would be banned nationwide. Doesn't mean college, amateur sports.
Well, it sort of sounds like college.
Yeah. Well, I get amateur athlete individual props on college athletes though would be outlawed.
So no props, in other words.
Yes, player props in NCAA football and basketball would be outlawed.
I don't hate that. Listen. As popular as props are in pro leagues, we don't need props in college sports.
Yeah, props on college sports. Yeah.
Anyway,
this is something that's getting passed around. Listen, there's so much money. Sportsbooks have so much money. We know that a lot of these things aren't going to be passed, and maybe it's all BS. But just for it being out there, I've talked about in this spot and many spots.
You have consistently on this show.
Consistently about gambling being a problem in every single college in America. Absolutely. I've seen some studies where they almost can't be right. I've seen something where 80% of people under 30 are degenerate gamblers that are playing at these sports books and casinos. I don't know, that's a big number, but even 25%, which I believe is a good number, it's closet gambling too. This is closet gambling on your apps. You're home, no one's around, no one sees you doing it. You're not in a casino where everyone sees you pulling out money. This is closet gambling, especially the online casinos portions. It's closet gambling. Listen. I'm all for taking advantage of bonuses and going in there and grabbing a bonus and playing through it. And, and when they throw us out, I'll get in under someone else's name. Well, that's the way it works.
That is why we hope. And again, there's going to be someone listening to this. Wait a minute, you guys talk about gambling all day. Yes, we do. And we hope that you get, I'll speak for this show, but I'll speak for the network also. We hope that you understand that we are trying to do it in a way that is deliberate and educated and try to win at this. but we don't go crazy with and say degenerate things and promote parlays. At least I'll speak for this show. We don't promote parlays. We don't talk about those things that are predatory vehicles for these sports books. And if there was ever an hour on radio, you and me, more than this one, where we openly go after sports books when they do wrong, and when they do, for God's sake, spitting on you in the middle and changing the odds, not giving you your winnings. I mean, there's so many things we've talked about through the years. So all of that stuff. But but it is not, I don't find it in any way hypocritical to talk about the fact that I'm in support of a lot of what this is about. Because there could be it already is trending towards a massive problem. So anything, again, to stem the tide.
This is why your show does so well. Our segment, maybe even more. This is why your show does so well, and it resonates with the listeners and viewers, because you gamble. And you've been thrown out of sports books. Now, listen, I'm not going against anyone else on VSiN or any networks nationwide, worldwide, sports betting talk. It's fashionable now. Everyone does it. It's fun. Oh, yeah, everyone. And they talk about it from betting, they say. A lot of them don't even bet. And you know why? They don't win. So they talk about it. So you have two guys here that actually win. We talk about it from a winning standpoint. So we get those roadblocks. We have those things that happen to us. So when people listen and hear spin, what's that mean? They don't even know what it means. Like you get spin at a site, you get odds change. So this is a really interesting subject for our show.
The other thing that needs to be said about this, though, is one thing to propose the SAFE Act. It's another thing to get it passed. And so, with all this stuff, there's a lobby, the sportsbook lobby, right, which will counter this, right? So someone smarter than me will be able to tell you the odds of this actually passing. I don't know what those are.
Very good. That's the words, too, the lobbyist. And that's a word I always forget what it is. That's exactly what it is. There's a lot of money in the coffers here.
And then if it does, what gets taken out of there, what's left in there, right? So it's going to be a lot of that.
Right. But just for it to be mentioned in air or on gambling Twitter in general, I'm there's been some articles coming out how bad gambling is, and these gambling call centers are off the hook with calls and stuff. It's just good to be mentioned anyway.
Absolutely. Bill Krackomberger, Unscripted, right here on A Numbers Game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Coming back. G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. I have not added anything to the Commanders plus 3.5 versus the Eagles. Been a good week betting college football so far, but that's all I got right now in the account. Commanders pre-flop plus 3.5 versus the Eagles. Kelley's got the Bulls tonight catching 14.5. His one basketball play. And then this weekend, he's got the Rams laying 3 in their ball game. He's got the Giants-Falcons under 42. He's got the Ravens-Bucks as a money line parlay, which pays off plus 103. So Kelley is all over the place. By the way, after this show, I'm headed over to do the Week 16 NFL Megapod, the Beating the Book Megapod. Special guest this week, Kelley Bydlon. How about that? Kelley, Megapodcast today. And then was that the end of our G-Bank Best Bets of the Day? I think it probably. Oh no, of course not. We got Zach Cohen's. He's on the Spurs tonight on the money line in the NBA. He's got the Mavericks team total under at 114, and he's got the T-Wolves on the money line tonight in basketball. College football playoff. He's got Indiana Notre Dame under 51.5, Penn State SMU over 53.5, and then he's got himself an Ohio State Penn State money line parlay. And then Tim Murray, the Tennessee team total under at 19.5 in the college football playoff. And then he is laying the wood with Syracuse, laying the 13.5 in that bowl game. By the way, G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN, once again, each and every day, not only on this show, but on every show on the network. With our best bets of the day. If you're serious about sports betting, you need the G-Bank Visa Signature Card. Most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when you put your own money on the card. G-Bank treats gaming transactions as purchases, so you're typically saving up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees right there. Right now, for a limited time, you'll receive a $250 bonus after you spend $1,000 in the first 90 days. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's BSIN.com/GBank. Subject credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. What are you laughing about?
Oh, I was laughing about G-Bank. We're just the last segment, exactly what I'm saying. We're talking about how using credit card, and you're promoting, hey, this is it. You could charge your casino and the sports, and the God's honest truth. That's a great. Now I didn't get this, but I'm going to get this credit card. I didn't know they give you This is the 2% credit card. You get $250 after you spend $1,000 too.
Whatever I said.
See, mathematically, That's a great positive VV play. You're going to get 2% on stuff, and you're getting 250. I was just laughing. Let me go into a tweet here.
Well, okay, I got tweets as well. Go ahead.
Okay, just one. The EV Sports Betting an hour ago said this. Caesars Casino I go to daily in Indiana requires a player card for any bet over $200 and valid ID to cash any win of $600 or more. They tried to ID me on a $200 win because the payout was $650. They kept saying, but you're collecting $650. They will drive business back to the bookies.
Of course
they'll drive business back to the old lady running the hot dog cart on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. I'll just tell you right now. This is unbelievable.
Bro, I said that in
this
2018.
Caesars is a joke.
I said it
They're
in 2018.
a joke, man.
Caesar was the one that spun me, remember, on the NBA draft bet?
Of course.
They spun me
threw everyone out for betting something that was widely available on Twitter. Hire some people, man. Do your work.
By the way,
give me a break.
To the point where, think about the difference. In pre-legalization in 2017, remember the William Hill NFL draft thing?
Sure.
Where I did a whole thing on it. They tried to chintz me out of my winnings.
Yes.
And
chintz, love it.
Nick Bogdanovich called me right after the segment and said, because Nick Bogdanovich was a man about it, he said, tell everybody to call me, I'll make it good.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
As opposed to my later things where they lied about me, right?
Sure.
And do to this day. But think about that. So that was 2017, Nick Bogdanovich being a stand-up guy saying, yeah, okay, you got it, tell everybody to call me, I'll pay them out. As opposed to Caesars, fast forward 7 years to earlier this year, the NBA draft, they spin in front of me unabashedly from 50 to 1 to 25 to 1 on a bet that was unlikely to win and didn't win.
Of course.
And they literally are too big to care.
That's right.
They're too big to care.
Word for that. Too big for. Yeah, you're right. Too big to care. Let's use that. That's exactly what they are. But and we're too close to the sun here. We know we don't reach anyone. I'm not trying to even cost them money. I'm just telling you, if you have a pulse, if you bleed red, you're going to be in trouble in the long run if you're betting at Caesars, unless they change things around. If you bet anything that's in the know, or if you're ahead of them on a line move or information, which, by the way, isn't everyone betting because they think they have something or they know something more than the bookmaker? That's why everyone bets, but Caesars doesn't care. They're too big to fail. That's the words I was thinking. Too big to fail.
Mike K. at Pats Fan, Illinois. How about we ban political ads from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.? Good luck on that, Mike. Good luck on that with elections. I hear what you're saying, but that ain't going to happen. Terry Elkins, talk about boring basketball. Remember college before the shot clock? Oh, man. 4 corners offense. I was telling this story earlier this year with Dean Smith playing Duke when I was a kid, and it was 7-0 at halftime because all he did was play 4 corners for a half. Brian M., if I'm changing the NBA, you lose a point for every missed 3, and if you miss a free throw, the other team gets to take a technical to steal the point. Okay. Jesse Welch says, we're all apparently impressed with the Bucks. Should we follow Drew Dinsick's lead and throw in a future on the Bucks? He grabbed them because a bird pooped on his wife, and yes, that is in fact true. He told that story on the show. That's right. I would not. I think the Bucks, as we talked about earlier, will win the division, but not beyond that. Patrick McDonald, the gambling industry will go through fines and hearings just like the tobacco industry. The government is addicted to the taxes and then will blame the CEOs while they were in on it from the beginning for the money. Just give it another 5 years, he says. Uncle Bush, JB, my first wager was 1992 Super Bowl. Oh, I remember that Super Bowl. He says, when I was 12, I wagered $20 that I didn't have, by the way, he says, and I bet against Joe Jackson Gibbs at halftime, down 17-0. Wow. Why'd you do that, man? He goes, I was red-faced in the bathroom, splashing water on my face. My father knocks on the door and says, what did you do? He's just giving a sense of how much $20
sure.
and the anxiety that he had on that. Yeah, don't ever bet against Joe Jackson Gibbs. Todd Bubba Horwitz, our buddy. You guys are the best. Anyone who watches or follows you gets 2 winning players that also say it's not easy and it's a grind. I appreciate the honesty and hard work to bring winners to us. Thank you very much. We appreciate it as well. And what was this? Todd of Thunder. Tell you a little secret about zip codes. They're meaningless. I'm not sure what that's in reference to.
Evan Klein also, he says the World Series of Poker lets you buy in with a credit card. Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
The World Series of Poker lets you buy in with a credit card.
The $10,000 event, too? You can buy in with a credit card?
I didn't know that.
Jesus. Thanks to everyone here. Raymond Bushholtz, Fred Courier, Mark Goldberg. These guys are all great. And the ones I didn't mention, too, thank you for, Raymond says, Mike Warren, Kevin Duffy, Stu Feiner, Ed the Professor Horowitz, just a few scams. Yes, and that makes it harder for a guy like me that uses real syndicate information to give out games and stuff. But it's amazing. Like a guy like Stu Feiner, yet he's on there on that Barstool Network screaming and yelling, and I guess he's funny. Takes off his shirt. I mean, listen. Does that get the views? Taking off your clothes, running around in underwear at 70 years old, and out of shape. I mean, maybe
it's
I
like
should join the crowd.
I always harken back on that stuff too. When there's this big Hollywood agency, creative artists, CAA.
Yeah.
They once had me in years ago.
Oh, okay.
They were nice. They sat down 45 minutes, talked to the guy, and the only thing that I remember from it is he was like, "Yeah, but if Barstool gets more eyeballs, because agents are predatory, right? They're just they're like a barnacle. They're like a leech on the industry, right? In every industry, right? Whether it's acting or whatever, they're just taking percentages, and that's all they care about in the end. They don't care if you're good. They don't care if you're being responsible. If you just get more eyeballs, that's all they care about.
And I guess it's entertaining too. Listen, I'm not trying to go after Barstool.
No, I'm not either.
I don't watch it. There's nothing I can learn. But if I want to be entertained like a TV show or something, I guess you can listen to.
I'm just saying it's a machine that gets perpetuated because everybody's in on. Everybody wants the money. So
I love the pizza reviews. I mean, there's certain things I really like.
Real quick before we go, you are still invested in a Circa Survivor entry that is alive, right?
How'd you know?
Because you talked about it on the show.
How'd you know I got through the last 2 weeks?
Because barely anybody got eliminated.
Oh, yeah.
So I figured you had to be through.
Yeah. Go Green Bay.
Go Green Bay for us, too. I'm invested in another one, too.
Oh, okay.
Not as high as your percentages.
Yeah, because you're 20% of an entry.
Oh, yeah, I'm not that high.
Yeah.
We're on Green Bay, too.
I got to tell you something. Believe it or not, if I could back out for the 40 that I put in, I think I'd back out.
Because of Christmas coming?
Christmas, we have to pick either Chicago or Seattle.
It's brutal.
So
that's what I said to our guy yesterday.
I had a great path, but everyone else got lucky too.
Everybody got lucky.
Kansas City, if they lose to Oakland, I wasn't to say Oakland. So if they lose to the Raiders, 29 people are out. We're not.
And at this point, since you and I have invested in our respective ones, nothing has advanced. It's just like we just sent our money on vacation for a little while.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It is. It's a scary thing now when you're investing that kind of money in things. And I guess you could hedge. There is hedging opportunities. There's only a few weeks left, but I haven't even entertained them yet.
We did it for the action.
Well, especially if you have a 14-point favorite still alive and stuff. So
it was a calculated thing based on who was left.
We lost a couple of people on the pool. I think I lost 5 people since I've joined. So it's probably worth more. And I already had a little bit of a bargain.
It's worth incrementally more.
I already had a bargain going in. I bought in for 20% of a pool that it was really worth about 25%. So.
Good luck to the both of us.
Yeah, good luck to us. Thanks for everyone commenting, listening, watching.
Really appreciate it. Best listeners of the game. You make this awesome.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now, absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.